My mother pointed at the ballroom doors in front of 200 wedding guests and said 6 words with the champagne still in her hand. "You don't belong to this family." The band stopped between songs, so everyone heard it. My sister stood 20 feet away in her white dress and said nothing. My father studied the ice in his glass. Somewhere behind me, a fork touched a plate and apologized for it, and I stood there in my dusty blue dress, holding a small wrapped box I'd carried past 200 place settings, trying to remember how breathing is organized. What none of them knew, not my mother, not the 200 guests, not even my sister, glowing under the chandeliers she hadn't paid for, was why the groom had spent 3 weeks begging me to be there. They were about to find out. But first you need 1 hour of my life, and I promise it moves fast. The invitation had arrived 6 weeks earlier, addressed in my sister Lacey's calligraphy, with a sticky note from our mother inside. An actual sticky note on a wedding invitation. "Don't cause problems. Don't try to stand out. This is your sister's day, not yours." That's the family in one post-it. Lacey is 2 years younger and has been the main character since the day she was born. The pageants, the braces, the study abroad year in Florence, the first wedding fund started when she was 19. I was the other one. The one they called when the car broke down, when Dad's shop flooded, when a form needed filling out, and the one who ate at the kitchen counter during Lacey's graduation dinner because the dining table only sat 12. I kept showing up anyway. Some of you know exactly what that's like. You keep paying the toll, hoping the bridge finally leads somewhere. 18 months before the wedding, it almost led to a funeral, a financial one. The groom, Tucker, is a genuinely decent man. Lord knows how she caught him. His family runs a restaurant here in Charleston, 3 generations of shrimp and grits and white tablecloths down near the Battery, and after 2 brutal years, the bank called their note. 6 weeks to pay or close. Tucker didn't tell Lacey. She'd have redone the wedding budget before she asked how he was. He told me. At 11 at night, in a parking lot, because I'm the one people in this family call when it's real. He was sitting on the tailgate of his truck outside the restaurant when I pulled in, still in his apron, holding the bank's letter like it was radioactive. "I can't tell Lacey," he said, "and I can't tell my dad. This place is his whole heart. You're the only person in this family who fixes things instead of performing them." Then he apologized for saying "this family" like I might not count myself in it. 11 o'clock at night, under a parking lot light on East Bay Street, and the man marrying my sister was the first person in 32 years to call me family, like it was a fact and not a favor. Here's the part I've never said out loud until now. I work in hospitality. I've spent 12 years turning around distressed hotels and event properties for a group you've heard of if you've ever gotten married in the Low Country. I restructured the restaurant's debt through our vendor program, personally guaranteed the bridge financing, and had our banquet division start ordering from their kitchen to rebuild the cash flow. The restaurant survived. Nobody lost anything, except me, if it ever went sideways, and it didn't. Tucker wanted to tell everyone. Lacey found out and made him swear not to. She sat across from me at a coffee shop. I remember she took the lid off her latte to let it cool, calm as anything, and said, "If Mom and Dad find out you saved his family, this whole engagement becomes about you. Let me have this. I'll tell everyone the truth after the wedding. I promise." I believed her. Write that down as my mistake, not hers. I was 34 years old and still buying tickets to a lottery my family had rigged before I could walk. And one more thing you need, because it matters in about 10 minutes. The venue. The Oak Alley estate with the chandeliers and the Spanish moss, the one Lacey toured with a magazine folded under her arm. It's ours, my company's. I'm the regional director. It's the crown of my portfolio. The family discount that made it affordable was me, comping it on my own authority, invoiced to a cost center with my signature at the bottom. My parents told the guests they'd made it work. Sure, somebody had. So that's what I carried up the Oak Alley that evening, along with a small wrapped box. The debt, the venue, the promise, and the sticky note. The estate does something to people when they come up the oak alley at golden hour. The Spanish moss moving, the chandeliers already lit behind the glass. And I watched 200 guests do it that evening from the porch where I'd approved the paint color. My mother met me at the top of the steps and looked at my dress like it had tracked something in. "Blue," she said. "Interesting. You know the bridesmaids are in blue." The bridesmaids were in navy. Mine was dusty blue, chosen off of sticky notes instructions not to stand out. There is no dress in America that woman couldn't find the crime in. My father offered the handshake he gives claims adjusters. And when the photographer waved me toward the family portrait under the oaks, Lacey stepped out of the frame, touched the photographer's arm, and said, smiling, so it would sound like a joke to anyone who wasn't its target, "Family photos are just for actual family." My father, for the record, is not cruel. He's furniture. 40 years of letting my mother decide the weather, agreeing with the forecast, studying his glass. It took me until that night to understand that furniture is a choice too. I stood on the grass while the shutter clicked. I could have left then. I want to be honest with you. The only reason I didn't was that Tucker, mid-photo, mouthed 2 words at me over my sister's veil. "Please stay." I didn't know yet what he was planning to do. Neither did they. The reception is where it turned, and it turned because of the one thing my sister has never been able to control: other people's eyes. 20 minutes into cocktail hour, a woman from the Historical Society recognized me and crossed the room. "Camille, I didn't know this was your property, honey. It's never looked so beautiful." And then a caterer I'd worked with for a decade, and then the event coordinator, my coordinator, sailing past the bar with her clipboard. "Ms. Barlow, we're holding the service corridor clear for you, ma'am, just in case. Ms. Barlow." "Ma'am." In the venue where the bride was supposed to be the only sun in the sky. I watched my sister watch it happen, watched her track every handshake from across the ballroom the way you'd track a wasp at a picnic. And I watched her walk to our mother and lean in close. And I knew, the way you know weather in your knees, that the toll bridge was about to close for good. I tried to be invisible. I want that on the record. I took a corner table with my great-aunt Pearl, who is 91 and mostly deaf and the only member of my family who has ever been uncomplicated about loving me, and I split a plate of pralines with her and kept my back to the room. It found me anyway. It always finds you. You can't hide from eyes in a room you built. And at some point, Pearl patted my hand and said, too loud, the way the deaf and the honest do, "This place is the prettiest thing you ever did, Junebug." 91 years old, and she'd known all along. Somebody always knows, friends. Hold on to Pearl. She gets the last word tonight. It took Lacey 4 sentences to do it. I got them secondhand later, from a cousin who was standing there. She showed up without a real invitation. She's been telling the staff she owns the place. She's trying to make today about her. She's always been jealous. Mom, please, don't let her ruin this. My mother didn't ask a single question. 34 years of me, 4 sentences from Lacey, and my mother chose the version she'd always preferred. She crossed the parquet with her champagne, waited. I'll never stop noticing this. Waited for the band to pause so the room could hear, and pointed at the doors. "You don't belong to this family. Leave now, before we have security walk you out." Security. Sweet mother of mercy. The security detail at that estate reports to a director of operations who reports to me. The men in the earpieces by the door had helped me carry flower arrangements up from the service corridor that same morning. One of them, big gentle Rufus, actually took half a step forward toward my mother, and I caught his eye and shook my head, small, the way you'd wave off a waiter. Because here's what 12 years of hospitality trains into your bones. You never raise your voice in a ballroom. The room does the talking. I picked up my little wrapped box from table 1, walked it back to the gift table, and set it down in the exact center where it would be easy to find. Then I hugged no one, said nothing, and started the long walk toward the doors, Past table after table of people studying their napkins, my heels the only sound in a room built for 200 voices. If you've ever made that walk, out of a family, a church, a job, with your spine straight and your eyes burning, tell me in the comments where you found the strength. I read everyone. Rufus held the door handle and didn't pull it. Later, he told me why. Ms. Barlow, I've walked plenty of folks out of this ballroom. Wasn't going to add you to the list in your own house. The whole staff had stopped, actually. Servers along the walls with trays they'd forgotten they were holding. My coordinator with her pen off the clipboard for the first time in recorded history. 200 guests thought they were watching a woman get thrown out. My people knew they were watching the owner leave. I was 4 steps from the doors when I heard feedback from the bandstand, and then Tucker's voice, too close to the microphone, shaking and absolutely done. No, nobody is walking her out. Stop, everyone, please. This wedding is only happening because of her. You could hear the chandeliers hum. I turned around. I'll admit it, I turned around. And my sister's brand new husband stood on the bandstand in his tuxedo, looking at my mother the way a man looks at the last straw, and he said into 200 silences, 18 months ago, my family's restaurant was 6 weeks from closing. One person saved it. She restructured the debt, she guaranteed the loan with her own name, and she sent us business every week until we could stand. Then she got us this venue, her venue, the one she runs, as a gift. And she let you all believe she was nobody because my wife asked her to wait. He had to stop and steady his voice. Camille, please don't leave. And please, open the gift. I know what's in it, and they should too. I hadn't planned it as theater. I want that understood. I'd wrapped that box 3 days earlier, alone at my kitchen table, crying a little, actually happy. But there are moments when the truth stage manages itself. My coordinator, bless her clipboard forever, had the box at my elbow in 11 seconds. I unwrapped it at the head table, in front of the room, and lifted out a single framed page. The promissory note for the restaurant's bridge loan, stamped in red, paid in full, forever, signed by me 3 days before the wedding. My wedding gift to Tucker and, God help me, to my sister, their whole future debt-free before their first dance. Somebody at table 6 started clapping when the frame went up. One of Tucker's uncles, it turned out, a man who'd washed dishes in that restaurant as a boy. And then the groom's whole side of the room was on its feet. 200 years of low-country manners deciding, all at once, whose side of the story they were standing on. My father read the frame from 4 feet away. He didn't clap. He did something I'd never seen him do. He looked at my mother and did not nod. Furniture moving 1 inch on its own. Too late, but I logged it. The room did what rooms do when the math changes, 200 heads turning from the frame to my parents to the bride. And my sister, cornered by the only audience she's ever wanted, finally told the truth in the worst possible way, which is to say out loud, I knew, okay? Her voice cracked into the microphone Tucker was still holding. I knew everything. I asked her to keep it quiet because it was supposed to be my day. For once, everyone was supposed to look only at me. There it was. Not a misunderstanding. A design. She hadn't forgotten to defend me when Mom pointed at the doors. The pointing was the plan working. And the confession landed on my parents' faces in real time. My mother looking at me, recalculating 34 years, arriving not at remorse but at inventory. I watched her do it. Then she crossed the parquet again, softer now, hands out. Camille, sweetheart, if we'd known everything you've done, everything you are, we never would have. I know, I said. That's the problem. She blinked. I said it slower, gently, because a ballroom carries a gentle voice better than a loud one. You're not sorry you were cruel to your daughter. You're sorry you were cruel to someone who turned out to matter. And Mom, you were right about one thing tonight. I really don't belong to this family anymore. Then I did the last 3 things, in order, calm as a checkout. I told Tucker the venue stayed his. The comp was my gift to him, and it would be honored to the last chandelier, because the decent man on that bandstand had spent his own wedding defending someone else's sister. I told the coordinator quietly to transfer the remaining event authority to the groom's family, my name off the file by morning. And on the way out, I stopped at my parents' table, where nobody was sitting anymore, and left my second envelope of the evening beside my mother's place card. Not a scene. Paperwork. It was the cancellation notice for the automatic payments I'd been making for 6 years on the refinance of their house, the help with the paperwork I'd done after Dad's shop flooded, which had quietly become me carrying a third of their mortgage, effective the first of the month. They had never once asked where the money came from. Now they'd never have to wonder again. The oak alley was cool and full of Spanish moss, and I walked down it alone, heels in my hand, and here's the strangest true thing I will ever tell you. It felt like checking out of a hotel after a very long conference. Tired, light, done paying for a room I never got to sleep in. 15 minutes, start to finish. And for every one of them, nobody was looking at the bride. Months later, the restaurant thrives. Tucker sends she-crab soup to my office every Friday, an in-law friendship my sister will never forgive either of us for. My parents sold the big house in spring. My mother calls it downsizing by choice. Everyone gets one story. Lacey and I haven't spoken, and Aunt Pearl has a standing suite at my property where the staff call her Miss Pearl, and she calls me Junebug, loudly in the lobby, which is now my favorite sound at work. Last month my mother texted me for the first time since the wedding. One line. Your sister has never forgiven us for what happened that night. Not, we're sorry. Not, how are you? Even the apology, when it finally reached for its coat, was about Lacey. I read it twice. Standing in the lobby of a property I just brought back from the dead, staff calling goodnight to me by name on their way out. Then I deleted it, and I felt the last toll booth close behind me. For 34 years, I thought I had to prove I deserved a place in that family. That night under the chandeliers, I finally understood the actual error, and I'll leave it with you the way it left me. My mistake was never failing to earn my place. My mistake was asking permission to belong from people who needed me lost. Stop asking. The room you're begging to enter is almost never the room where you're loved. Walk the oak alley. Somebody decent is usually holding the door at the other end.